Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 20th of July 2021, and these are the stories that we will be discussing during the course of the show. We will begin with the US that has urged for tangible steps for advancing the Afghan peace process. This was discussed between a meeting between Zalmay Khalilzad and the Chief of the Army Staff, as well as Mr. Imran Khan, our Prime Minister, during talks that Mr. Khalilzad had with both the leaders during his visit to Pakistan. Now, we know that a tangible solution for the Afghan peace process is extremely important in the current scenario that is being witnessed in the region. Therefore, let's see how all of this progresses, and this is going to be our leading segment of the day. Our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, will concern the Indian conspiracies against the peace process in the region as well as against Pakistan. Pakistan will be raising the hacking of by India of our Prime Minister Imran Khan's phone, one of the phones that he was using. This is a discovery that has been made by a huge report that has been unearthed by different media organizations, including the Washington Post and Amnesty International, that alleges that an Israeli firm has been selling spyware that is known as Pegasus to different countries so that they could spy on their own journalists, on human rights activists, and also politicians. India has used it for spying against its own journalists, also against Pakistan. Next, we'll be talking about the United States that has said that it recognizes and supports Pakistan's continued efforts to meet the Financial Action Task Force's requirements. It acknowledges that the latter has made significant progress on the International Watchdog's original action plan that was agreed to in June 2018. We know that Pakistan has, of course, conformed to 26 out of 27 of the points that were raised by the FATF. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, India's coronavirus death is apparently 10 times more than has been officially declared by the authorities in India. This is, of course, unearthed in a latest report that has come out. And of course, it raises some serious speculations about why a lot of things were not given as far as the statistics of the COVID-19 fatalities in India. Let's begin with our first segment, ladies and gentlemen, that concerns the future of the Afghan peace process in the context of Zalmay Khalilzad's visit to Pakistan and his meetings with our Prime Minister Imran Khan and Chief of the Army Staff. More in the following report.
US exit from Afghanistan has been followed by dramatic developments whereby ground realities are unfolding at astronomical pace, shaping the contours of post-US withdrawal country. The Taliban have in recent days seized major border crossings and important security checkposts, hitherto controlled by Afghan security apparatus. While sensing the urgency of volatile regional developments, the US Special Representative for Afghanistan Reconciliation Ambassador Zalmay Khalilzad made a dash to Islamabad on Monday and held crucial meetings with Prime Minister Imran Khan and Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa as part of efforts to prevent a protracted civil war in Afghanistan. Khalilzad's visit materialized against the backdrop of two consequential happenings such as talks between Afghan political establishment and Taliban in Doha, whereby the two sides agreed to accelerate the ongoing peace dialogue. On the other hand, there has been a diplomatic row between Pakistan and Afghanistan over the alleged abduction of the Afghan envoy's daughter. Earlier, Prime Minister Imran Khan and Afghan President Ashraf Ghani had in their recent meeting at Tashkent exchanged views on the Afghan peace process and relations between Pakistan and Afghanistan. According to Foreign Office spokesperson office, Prime Minister Imran Khan highlighted that Pakistan has always supported a united, peaceful and stable Afghanistan. As Afghanistan descends into chaos, Pakistan as responsible regional stakeholders striving to bridle the impending instability that might substantially wreck regional security matrix. Furthermore, Pakistan's consistent support for the Afghan peace process underscores the country's sincere endeavor to secure inclusive and comprehensive peace settlement in Western neighbor.
Dr. Moazzam Hashmi, expert in Afghan affairs, joins us online. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Saab, why this hasty arrival of Zalmay Khalilzad to Pakistan and the meetings with Prime Minister and the Chief of the Army Staff? Is the situation in Afghanistan coming to some kind of a logical conclusion, or do you feel that US has serious apprehensions about it?
But Saab, thank you for inviting me. Apprehensions are of course there, and you don't see anybody is going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. And as far as Ambassador Zalmay's visit is concerned, I think last was in March, I believe, March 8 or 7. So diplomatic visits are, diplomacy basically is all about communication. So it doesn't give you a solution right away. It doesn't make, they are not decision makers. They simply communicate. So Zalmay Khalilzad's visit is just reassurance the presence of USA in the affairs, that the peace dove which has pulled the pin of grenade in Afghanistan flew away. So it's just about the, I'm referring to a cartoon which appeared a few days ago, and very much describes the situation where there is a grenade lying in Afghanistan and a peace dove pulled the pin of the grenade and flew away. So US is trying to reassure that they are not flying away, they are still there. However, they have flown away. We know that. So
But,
apprehensions
but,
are
but
there
Dr. Saab,
and
as you
situation
very well
is
mentioned yourself,
getting,
that they have flown,
yes,
as you very well
yes,
have mentioned, Dr. Saab, that the US has flown away, and it has also given a date. Before it was the 11th of September, then it was the 31st of August, and now, of course, most of the US forces have withdrawn from Afghanistan. So have the NATO forces. Only a skeleton crew remain behind, as we know and understand well. Where does it leave the Afghan peace process? For example, the whole deal that was signed between the Afghan Taliban and the US, where does that leave that peace process? The negotiations that were going on between the Afghan Taliban and the Afghan government, is there any future to that?
well, future is there, of course, for those who are party to the peace process, and that is, their political shops is being oiled by this process or processes. So just like the war industry, peace and conflict is also an industry. Counterterrorism is industry. So what is that? You might see that immediately you don't see that the war is going on, war is not there, but of course this peace industry is continuing the business. That means the industrial aspect of war is continuing, number one. Number two is that to reassure people and to just give them a consolation, that's why the parties are there. This peace process is going on for a long time, that 18 years, 13 years of President Hamid Karzai, then President Ashraf Ghani, and before that, there was an interim also. So this process is going on, and where this process has led you. Let me refer you to my article of April 2012 that appeared in Foreign Policy magazine, headline that there is no way but to talk to Taliban. So talking to Taliban is there. Now, if you look at the situation, Taliban are still a force to reckon with. Of course, the politically other contenders in Afghanistan have grown stronger, administratively and political aspect. But you look at that, Taliban is still a reality. They are the force to reckon with on the territory because,
I
as they
understand, Dr.
claim,
Saab, that the Taliban
yes,
are a reality, but what I would like to also understand is how ready are they for talks with the Afghan government? How willing are they for talks with the Afghan government?
but sir, number one, they don't recognize Taliban. As far as my knowledge of Taliban is concerned and how they think, as I know some of them. So over the past 30 years, the point is that they don't recognize Kabul as a government. That's the main issue. Had they been recognizing Kabul government, then there was no issue. They could have directly talked to them. They don't want to talk to them. That's the main issue. They want to talk to the US, which is holding the money bags and everything. So that's the issue. So minus, Kabul government, they are ready to talk. And the other parties, I'm referring to the US-led coalition and all that involved in that, they don't want the war to stop. They don't want this process to stop. The reason is that the new dimension, let me mention you. I said India is just a $3 billion affairs of development projects in Afghanistan. But their main concern India is now has become China. China has the development projects and everything. Until and unless you see uh, China is winning, India is not winning. That's why China and US are aligned together. And in Afghanistan, if US has flown out, the reason is that China was expediting its development projects and other exploration in Afghanistan. So the things have not been made easier for China to do anything over there. India in this affair, as far as development is concerned, is a small fry. Main stakeholder is China. Russia interest is also there. How you can, you promote the Belt and Road Project initiative or other things, CPEC and all that, if the USA is not involved in it? Look at this
All
from
right.
this angle. That's
Hmm.
why, the process is there, and I don't see processes are going anywhere until unless there
But
is
Dr.
something
Saab,
concrete.
in this bigger game, this bigger picture that you have also explained to us, and of course we have also been reading your articles in that respect. Isn't the stability in the region being made to be a victim in all of this greater global scenario, or the tensions between the US and China? Isn't the region going to become further destabilized because of this tension?
Yes, but sir, very much. And it's unfortunate state, but that's what it is. And somebody has to pay the price. Somebody is a bigger winner, somebody is a loser in the game, somebody is smaller winner. So people in the region are the losers. They are going to pay the price for it once again, I say. So this is the situation, and the reality is that, we talk about peace and all that, but what is left over there? Let me reiterate again the words Ahmad Shah Massoud once told us, long ago, I think almost 30 years or something like that. I remember, when he said that the parties involved in it, the other countries, they don't want us to stop the war. They are helping us to continue the war. And his son, Ahmad Shah, who's just returned from Paris and trying to create a leadership of his own. We'll talk about later, that whether his leadership is still there or not. He's saying the same thing, and he has the same apprehensions about the peace process and the stability in Afghanistan. So this is going to continue, I'm afraid. And the four countries, particular Pakistan, Iran, and the two Central Asian states,
Turkey as well.
Tajikistan.
How can we not forget Turkey that is controlling the Kabul airport as we speak?
Well, that's a new addition in the game. And if, when the not, NATO is not here, USA is not here, somebody has to represent them. And who is more acceptable to be represented? That is Turkey. There's a lot of drums beating going on about the Khilafat and all that kind of a thing. The utopian approach about it. So Turkey basically is there as an acceptable somebody new in the game
All right,
to
Dr. Saab,
represent
in
NATO.
all of the scenario, you've mentioned different players. Uh, are too many cooks
Yes.
not spoiling the broth?
Oh, of course they are. They are spoiling the broth. Look at the Taliban constitution they have issued in 2007. Look at the details of Taliban constitution, and look at the new one they have just said the peace agreement their terms. I don't see much change in it. It's the same rhetoric on both sides. USA is also stick to the rhetoric, but they don't, because they don't want to stop it. They want to continue their presence in the region as a big brother.
Sir, also,
You see, if
let's
you
also talk about the trickle
yes.
effect of all of this situation into Pakistan. On the 17th of July, the DGISPR, while talking to a television channel, said, and I quote, that the recent events have a relation with the situation developing on the other side in Afghanistan. As a result of our operations, there is no organized terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan, and leadership of all these networks is sitting across in Afghanistan, and they have had the support of RAW and India. So the recent events you saw show their terrorist desperation. How can Pakistan stop the trickle effect that is happening into our country through Afghanistan?
Well, I second DGISPR. That is right. The terrorist network is sitting outside. However, this all hopula about particularly India is. I have good friends in India as well, journalists and others. But you see, the reality is that this being created by India, and it is actually based on July 2008 story of Reuters. Reuters at that time in July 2008 has quoted couple of Pakistani Taliban leaders who said that they have sent hundreds of Pakistani Talibans into Syria to help their brothers, because those Arab brothers helped them in Afghanistan. So now they are reciprocating. Well, that's an old story now. The situation has changed. DGSPR has said that we have a long fencing border. We are trying to root out all these things. However, I'm not in charge of the ground realities over here. I'm just an observer and commentator. However, this, it's to be confirmed by the authorities in Pakistan that the the terrorists who were over here are pushed back into Afghanistan. This is what the GISPR is saying, and I believe him that they have been pushed out of it. However, the other countries like India, they always use a microscope to look at us. So they might have other reasons to believe it, which I'm not sure there are any ground realities
Hmm.
about it. However, the situation itself in Afghanistan is very dangerous. Now, what you have to see that you have to see that there are two important circle you can see that one is the Afghan Talibans, and two is the whatever the Pakistani Taliban or whoever want to say that, whether they exist now or don't exist. The thing is that how much Pakistan muster support with Afghan Taliban to help this peace process in negotiation as well as to install the
But
peace processes over
isn't it
there.
due to Pakistan, Dr. Saab, that the Afghan Taliban sat down with the Afghan government? Didn't the US ask for Pakistan's help to bring the two sides together?
Yes, yes, that's what I'm saying that. So, but still we have to re-evaluate this thing, how much after Maulana Samiul Haq's death and after Siraj Haqqani's death, how much influence we still now have. We do have an influence, but how much is it good enough to bring us some good result? And for that reason, I would say that with my experience, I have some hopes in it that Pakistan still have some influence as a good friend and somebody who can assure peace in Afghanistan. And there is no one else. If you look that we are the Pakistan is Taliban's best option to help them negotiate, because we are in the Western camps for long. We are siding the US, we know China as well, and we often bring India on the table as well. We are good with Russians as well. We are good with Iran as well. So we are Taliban's best option. This is one strong positive point I see in this whole peace process. So Taliban have to listen to us or have to cooperate with us as far this process is concerned. Minus Pakistan, what Taliban support is that? Who's going to do that? Do you think India can do that? No, India has been aggravating the situation. They cannot. Iran is being passive. Russia is passive. China doesn't want to get directly involved in it. China has its own interest about the safeguarding this, and in the past, like in past 12 years, if China was directly talking to participating in counter-terrorism efforts and all that, that was
Hmm.
China's interest. So that is another thing. But directly getting involved in the peace process is the Pakistan, which is the power or which is the force to reckon with on the ground. So
All right,
I'm
Dr.
sure that
Saab, which brings me back to the meeting between Zalmay Khalilzad Saab and our Prime Minister and the Chief of the Army Staff. How important will be the collaboration, direct or indirect, between Pakistan and the US in order to bring stability in Afghanistan? And also considering the fact that the US has an important relationship with our not so friendly neighbor India, do you feel that India will continue to play the spoiler effect, and despite the fact that US knows exactly how India is destabilizing Pakistan directly and indirectly?
But sir, as far as the people-to-people contact with India is concerned, they are good because we have almost the same culture and same habits and all that. So that's not an issue. People are friendly with each other. But as for the political, the situation is bad to worse, and it's getting bad to worse day by day. As long as President Modi's rhetorical and uncompromising government is there.
Hmm.
So I don't see any positive thing in this regard. India would continue to play a spoiler role because India believes that, you know, uh, believes that they have a right over everything over there, and it's a kind of they see Pakistan as a kind of a contender and competitor. So I
Hmm.
don't see any slowdown that India is going to turn off or slow down its steam in Afghanistan affair. This is not going to happen. That will
All
continue.
right.
Now, how we are going to counter that? Yes, it is. It has become more complicated because US has more closely aligned with India, with China, Pakistan, in further increasing collaboration and cooperation in the region. So that's a kind of a competition. Two alliances going against each other passively or actively. Pakistan is not, of course, Pakistan and China are not competing with each other. They are simply defending themselves. However, the US affair is concerned that they need both help. They want to keep Indian pressure on Pakistan, and simultaneously they keep asking Pakistan to help because they know it very clearly that without Pakistan
So
you are
true.
not going to get anywhere.
Hmm.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, because this is a very interesting and complicated situation that we are embroiled in. In fact, the whole region is embroiled in. And I just hope that the US understands the complexity of the situation and understands Pakistan's perspective as well as far as the future of the Afghan-owned and Afghan-led peace process is concerned. And also, I just hope that the Afghan Taliban and the Afghan government find some kind of a middle ground in order to come to the negotiation table and find a long-term solution, or else the situation, as a lot of experts are saying, might deteriorate further. Our second story of the day, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Indian conspiracies against peace in the region as well as in Pakistan. And it has recently been unearthed that one of our Prime Minister Imran Khan's mobile numbers was found in a list of numbers that was being used by India to hack these numbers through a software, a malware known as Pegasus, that was sold to it by an Israeli firm. More in the following report.
Unraveling of major Israeli cyber surveillance company NSO Group raised serious concerns of malicious espionage after an international alliance of news outlets reported that governments used its software to target journalists, dissidents, and opposition politicians. Authoritarian regimes harnessed Israel-made Pegasus spyware for sake of mass surveillance, which enables phones to be infiltrated and tracked with the microphone and camera activated remotely to monitor the user. India was also among the malevolent clients of this software, which misused it against Pakistan to wage spyware. Besides ruthlessly suppressing civil society and opposition parties, the notorious regional reprobate used depraved tactics harm Pakistan. According to credible evidence unearthed by investigative cohort, more than 1,000 phone numbers in India appeared on the surveillance list, while hundreds were from Pakistan, including the one Prime Minister Imran Khan once used. It's not clear that whether the surveillance attempt on Prime Minister Imran Khan's number was successful. The leaked list of potential hacking targets was obtained by rights group Amnesty International and Forbidden Stories, a Paris-based media non-profit organization. Federal Minister for Information and Broadcasting Fawad Chaudhry expressed serious concerns over this harrowing spy saga, while raising alarm that unethical policies of Modi government have dangerously polarized India and the region. Retrospectively, India has never left any stone unturned to inflict harm to Pakistan, and this sordid episode of waging spyware illustrates its perpetual animosity towards Pakistan. Being incubator of technological oppression, New Delhi's maneuvering is dangerously jeopardizing peace and security of the region.
Now to talk about this dangerous maneuvering by India in order not only to destabilize but also malign Pakistan, we've been joined by Hamid Khan al-Mashriqi. He's a leading analyst. Hamid Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Hamid Saab, when you saw this latest report that also talks about these numbers that were being used by India to for surveillance purposes, including one of the numbers that were being used by our Prime Minister Imran Khan, what kind of situation that does it point you towards, or does it surprise you?
To be honest, thank you very much, Omar, but to be honest, it doesn't surprise me at all, because I believe this, I have seen, and world has to understand, this fascist Modi government have no morals and no ethics in any way, and they can do to go to any extent against their enemies or their opponents, or within their government or within their political system, and then they purposely target Pakistan for everything. I mean, there is no limit of Indian enmity to Pakistan, that they can go to any extent. And this is another example. This is another proof of that. And I'll tell you that this has been printed in English newspapers like Telegraph and Guardian and others. And then it has been
Washington Post
like
as well.
Washington Post and others. So this is like undeniable facts, and this is a time. I mean, I'm surprised at how Modi government is surviving within this modern world now. I mean, can you imagine that they were taping their own opposition leaders' phones, their own ministers' phones, and then trying to access the
their own
phone
journalists
of our
as
prime
well.
minister. Exactly. This Pegasus software is very notorious. NSO company has been sued in America as well, and they have, they have asked for the explanation from American NGOs as well. And it is on the record that in 2019 there was a complete report in Indian media, and Indian government have completely denied at that time as well. So this is unbelievable. And I will again like to remind you the EU Disinfo Lab, where they have 650 media houses to malign Pakistan, to change the narrative, and to bring their own perceptions in the public for against Pakistan. This is another way of India's enmity towards Pakistan. But apart from atrocities, what India is doing now, the world have seen there are no ethical ethics and there are no morals of this fascist Modi
There are
government.
no
I mean,
morals,
they
there are no ethics. We also saw it in what Mr. Jaishankar said as far as the influence on FATF
exactly.
by India
I
for
was going,
Pakistan is
yes,
concerned, and so on and so forth. The EU Disinfo Lab report and so many other dossiers that Pakistan has also given to in the international organizations that give details, facts and figures about Indian involvement directly and indirectly through Afghanistan. But will anything tangible happen? And if something does not happen, how should Pakistan move forward?
exactly. I mean, that is the main point. I mean, we have seen, as you mentioned, Jay Shankar's clear statement that how India is influencing in FATF to keep Pakistan in grey list. It has exposed the entire system and entire credibility of FATF. And now Pakistan has all the right to raise questions on every platform, including European Union, including in United States, United Nations, everywhere. Pakistan has to keep exposing Indian, face, Indian dark steps towards maligning Pakistan. That's the only thing Pakistan has to do immediately. And secondly, yes, unfortunately, by the name of their trade benefits, world doesn't do anything against India. I mean, this is going to be a very, very dangerous situation in coming days, because now we have seen that India is not stopping from doing anything wrong in the world. Now, I mean, I always believe that European Union have some ethics. They always want to have some clean steps towards, when it comes to the media, when it comes to the human rights. But now this is a test case for European Union as well. This is a test case for United Nations as well. I always say that things like that, when they have been exposed, there is a need and there is a demand. There must be a demand from government of Pakistan to put the sanctions, at least a kind of economical sanctions on India, so that India will have some kind of punishment for doing these kinds of acts. That is the whole point. Because if the world will not understand. Today, if they are targeting Pakistan, they have targeted European Union as well. They have targeted member of European Parliament as well. So, I mean, what is the limit for India?
What
There
is the
should
limit?
be
I
a
mean, to
limit.
which limit will they go before somebody, some organization or the United States or the United Nations puts a stop to what India is doing?
Exactly. That's the whole point. I mean, they have already crossed all the limits. I mean, what they have sent a fake delegations of European member of parliaments to Srinagar, and there was no action from the European Union. I mean, this was an unbelievable crime did by Modi government. Then revocation of Article 370 and 35A and all that steps. What Modi is doing in Kashmir and minorities in India, they are all have big questions on the integrity of organizations like European Union and United Nations. This is a responsibility of United Nations. I mean, on the one hand, we caught red-handed Kulbhushan Yadav and many conspiracies from Raw within Pakistan. We have given all the dossiers and proofs to the world. Now, this latest is not coming from Pakistan. It is coming from a reputable international organization from France.
Exactly.
And then it has been printed
In
in
fact,
the international
a
media.
conglomerate of 17 media organizations that have published this and that have unearthed this
Exactly.
huge scandal.
Exactly. So now this is, I mean, I'm failed to understand that what else world needs to see that what kind of wrongdoings Modi fascist government is doing at the moment.
Exactly. Hamid Saab, when Minister for Information Ravish Saab says, and I quote, the unethical policies of the Modi government have dangerously polarized India and the region. Do you feel that the people of India even realize that their country has been polarized, that there's a huge divide now that is present even in their country? I'm not even talking of Pakistan. I'm talking of our not-so-friendly neighbor India and how it is fragmenting India into different parts.
Now, Umar, that is the main thing that the common people of India are not realizing. And as the matter of fact, they don't know what extent India has been polarized due to the acts of this present Modi government. And we have seen that, even opposition is on the wall now, and they are taking so many revengeful steps within India to any opposition of this RSS ideology. Now that is the whole point. Like Prime Minister clearly answered in a conference in Shanghai conference that this is the RSS ideology
Of course.
who's stopping a friendly relation with
Hmm.
Pakistan or any neighboring countries. So this is RSS ideology is actually damaging its Indian identity as well, where India was known to be a secular country, but since Modi has come into power,
Hmm.
it's not a secular country anymore. It is a fascist Hindutva state which is following the RSS and Chanakya ideologies, and it will lead India to a division into many countries. And Modi will be remembered as the Gorbachev of India because of its own policies and because of its own, misdeeds and bad deeds, what they are doing at the moment, and atrocities, what they are doing to the minorities.
All right, now, Hamid Saab, the Foreign Office spokesperson, Mr. Chaudhary, has said that we might be getting in touch with the FATF as far as Mr. Jaishankar's statement is
Absolutely.
concerned regarding the influence of India on FATF against Pakistan. What about what has been unearthed now? Should Pakistan be contacting the important international organizations? Should it be
Yes,
contacting United Nations? Should it be contacting this
yes.
conglomerate of 17 media organizations to get Pakistan's viewpoint up front?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I was talking to in a conference here in London, and I exactly mentioned the same thing that now this is the time. Pakistan case is very strong. That despite of completing and 26, terms out of 26 conditions out of 27, still why FATF kept Pakistan in grey list? It is all because of influence of India. And if an organization like that will be influenced by any enemy or any country, it
Hmm.
completely tarnished the credibility of organization like FATF, and in future there won't be any other countries would participate in FATF. They would not even have any trust or credibility in FATF. And yes, Pakistan has all the right, and Pakistan must take its case to the United Nations. Pakistan takes it to the European Union because FATF is all operated from the France, and now Pakistan. This is the time when Pakistan have all the proofs in their hand that what India is doing against Pakistan is open now. It is not even a hidden propaganda. They are admitting in an admission of a foreign minister of a country. Pakistan needs to take it on every possible platform, and Pakistan has all the right to come out of grey list, and Pakistan can ask for the compensation of damages which we face due to false propaganda from India for these 3 years. It means Pakistan should have not been in grey list or should have come out of grey list at least 1.5 years ago, since India is doing everything against Pakistan to keep Pakistan in FATF grey list. Pakistan case is very strong, and Pakistan has to take it to every possible platform to pressurize FATF, to expose FATF. And now this is the time when FATF has to justify themselves that why did
Exactly.
they
I totally
became
agree
under
with
the
you on that. But
influence.
Hamid Saab, one more thing. Let's come back to the Pegasus software, the malware that has been used, that was fabricated, that was made by the Israeli company NSO, and then, of course, was sold to different governments, including the Indian government, that use not only this software, this malware against its own people, its own journalists, politicians, and human rights activists, but also hundreds of Pakistanis, including our Prime Minister Imran Khan. Do you feel this justifies as a case
Of course.
in the international courts of justice, or in some
Of
kind of an
course.
international organization
It
to
is.
kind of bring India forth to what it has been perpetrating, because it has been
Yeah.
spying on Pakistan indirectly and directly, and now also
Yeah.
through software such as Pegasus.
It is against the charter of United Nation organization. It is against the charter of United Nation and organization. It is against all the ethics of diplomatic world. It is against the basic human rights. And when we talk about spying on a prime minister's trying to spy a prime minister's telephone is a big crime. Pakistan can take it to the International Court of Justice. Pakistan should take it to all the platforms, and Pakistan have a very clear, strong case. And Indian and Israel collaboration is not hidden from the world. If whatever India is doing is always one way or the other collaborated by Israel or Israeli government or Israeli organizations. Now it is clear that whatever is happening, the demographic changes or whatever the steps India is taking in Kashmir, again, they reflect what Israel is doing in Palestine. So this is all, it's kind of a nexus between Israeli government and Indian government. And Pakistan has a very strong case in all the ethical grounds, on all the moral grounds. And to be honest, on every legal platform, Pakistan has the right to expose. As a law student, I can clearly say that there is no doubt that Pakistan will win that case, and Pakistan will be able to put some kind of sanctions, some kind of punishment for India if the world will be fair enough to take their decisions on a fair ground. That is the only question. If the justice is provided on the fair ground, Pakistan have a very, very good case against India to expose Indian atrocities, to expose Indian illegal, immoral activities against Pakistan and against its own public, against human rights organizations. There is no justification for that, what India is doing now.
All right, and finally, Hamid Saab, what about this malware? Should the people whose phone have been tapped through this malware, should they dispose of their phones? Should they install anti-malware software? Should they reboot the phone? Should they completely remove the software? What should they do in order to get rid of this malware?
Obviously, I do have a little bit IT touch as well. I would suggest everybody very strongly that they should hard reset their phone. One is a software reset, one is just a simple reset, and one is called hard reset. Everybody needs to hard reset their phones, which means the phone will have everything wiped out on it, and then they have to get it checked as well. Or if they can't do it, they just need to be very careful on all the apps what they install on it, and they have to be very careful, especially whatever the messages they are getting on platforms like WhatsApp or Facebook or others, because some of the messages are carrying a software malware which automatically installs on your phones,
and of
that
course
is the
not
only
open these
precaution that they
unwarranted messages that you receive on WhatsApp or even what you receive on your normal messaging platforms.
Exactly. That's the only precaution everybody needs to take. Generally, that is an advice that you should not open unnecessary messages, especially which has got any kind of attachments to it.
Thank you very much, Hamid Khan Al-Mashriqi Saab, a leading analyst who have talked to us about India's nefarious designs in the region for peace, not only its in country, but also in the entire region. And the way the different things are being unearthed, the latest being that hundreds of Pakistani phones have been tapped by India using the Pegasus malware, malware that has been fabricated and made by the Israeli software company NSO. Of course, they all deny it, but now we have the proof but through an investigation made by 17 media organizations. Let's go to our last two segments very quickly, ladies and gentlemen. The first, of course, is about the recognition by the United States that says it supports Pakistani efforts to meet the FATF requirements. We know very well that Pakistan has come up with 26 of the 27 points that were required by the FATF, and then all of a sudden Pakistan still remain in the grey list, and they put new additions to the demands, that is the FATF. Now, of course, we've also talked about India's influence, but there are other countries also that are influencing the FATF so that Pakistan continues to remain in the grey list. Nevertheless, the recognition by the United States when it says that it is cognizant of the efforts that Pakistan has been putting forward as far as meeting with the FATF requirements that had been put forward since 2018 is an acknowledgement by the United States itself that Pakistan is doing the needful. And then finally, ladies and gentlemen, let's come towards COVID-19, the fourth wave of COVID-19 that is engulfing slowly and steadily because of the Delta variant or the Delta Plus variant or the Indian variant. variant that is gaining a lot of cases across the world, including in Pakistan. Now, India's coronavirus death toll is up to 10 times higher than the nearly 415,000 fatalities that were reported by the authorities. This is a report that was given by the Center for Global Development. It analyzed the data from the start of the pandemic to June this year, and it suggests that between 3.4 million and 4.7 million people have perished from the virus. We don't understand why the Indian authorities did not give the exact data for whichever reasons. Nevertheless, this latest report that has come out puts a lot of very strong indicators about how India has been hiding its actual figures, and how also now that the Indian variant, that is the Delta and the Delta Plus variant, are wreaking havoc across the world, including in Pakistan. This brings us to the end of today's newsroom. But ladies and gentlemen, before we leave, a lot of countries across the world celebrated Eid al-Azha today. So we wish them a happy Eid al-Azha, all of you who've celebrated in the world. And tomorrow we are celebrating Eid al-Azha in Pakistan. So Eid al-Azha Mubarak in advance to all of Pakistan. Kindly follow the SOP. Stay vigilant when you go and buy your cattle, especially for Eid al-Azha sacrificial purposes. Because if you are not careful, if you do not follow the SOPs, if you do not wear your mask, if you do not keep a safe distance from others, this virus will spread again, and we cannot afford Pakistan to be in another strong wave of the virus. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. Allah Hafiz and Eid Mubarak in advance.